Welcome back to another episode of I Made That. I'm so thrilled about my guest today. I've been admiring her from afar on Instagram for quite a while now. She's the founder of Elevate Communications. She's worked really extensively with Netflix, with Paramount, Sony, and a lot of the top PR firms. So I'm so excited to dive into everything PR with her today. And I'm hoping she'll give me some hot takes on her wardrobe as well. Please welcome my guest, Lindsay Colker.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Chloe.
Yeah, of course. So I always like to start out. Can you tell me and our audience what you do in your own words?
Yeah. Um, well, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here. I work with companies and individuals to define their story and position them in culture and earn the kind of media that drives strong business results. I connect the dots that most people don't see and I turn them into stories that the world can't ignore, or I hope the world can't ignore.
Yeah, I love that. So I feel like you have to have a crazy origin story yourself. How did we get here? How did you even start working in this industry?
Such a great question. Well, I had always admired and been a big fan of the entertainment industry. And from as far back as I can remember, I would be reading People magazine, I would be passionately watching Entertainment Tonight, and I just loved being entertained. And when 9/11 hit, I was in a career. I wasn't even in a career. I was an assistant. I started in advertising. And I thought that would be the closest thing to working in media, which it kind of was. But I was not passionate about what I was doing. And I found myself after a year kind of burning out of that and moving to an investment bank where I was an executive assistant. And I loved being an executive assistant. I was really good at it. And I, I loved it. I loved the partners that I worked for, but I was not passionate about it. And
Yeah.
when 9/11 hit, it hit me in a way that I felt like, what am I doing? Like life could end like this. And I'm not really like, I felt like a fish swimming in a fish bowl, like just in circles, but not necessarily um, existing in a way or living in a way or thriving in a way that felt like I was making the most of this life. And so when 9/11 hit, I decided I'm going to leave this comfortable executive assistant job. I mean, I was being paid well at the time. I was being bonused, was being treated really well, but I just didn't love it. And I was going to
Yeah.
move to LA. So a couple months after 9/11, I moved here. I'd actually come down and interviewed with a couple of companies, and I felt confident I was going to get a job. I came down literally during the era of there was no phones, there was no, maps, Google Maps or Waze. I had a map with me in the car, and I would find my way through.
Stop it.
No, it's such a weird concept today.
Wow.
And I came down here, interviewed, went back, quit my job, and I was in San Francisco and
Okay.
decided that, okay, I'm going to figure this out. Moved my stuff home for like a month and got a job. So that sort of was the catalyst to this career. I started my career working at Vivendi Universal Interactive, which was their video gaming division. And I was very
Okay.
honest with the executives that I was working for that like this wasn't my, gaming wasn't my end all, but that I saw this as like a stepping stone, but that I would be the very best I could be in this role. And as I was in that job, a friend of mine had interned at Paramount. And
Okay.
he randomly sent me a job posting that one of the executives in the division, in the media relations division on the TV side, was looking for an assistant. And she asked if I'd be interested. And so the rest is history. And so after working in, gaming for a couple months, I went over. There were no hard feelings. And that started my career.
I love these kind of serendipitous stepping stones. I think that you really strike me as somebody who you see the opportunity in everything and
Mm,
like very optimistic and are kind of able to parse those things out and take advantage of them. Um, have
thank
you
you.
always had that kind of really bold, just almost belief in yourself? Because really, to do these kinds of things, to just up and quit your job, to go be in an industry that you know that you're not familiar with, you really do have to fully believe and trust in yourself that you're going to make it happen.
I love that you're asking me this question because it's it's been a journey for me. I have not. I mean, I for so many years of my life didn't have the confidence. I doubted myself. I felt like I was not enough. And it wasn't and even throughout my career journey, I felt that way. And so within me, both my parents are very they're people persons. Like they are like me. I'm very outgoing. They are
Yeah.
hard workers, and disciplined. And I think I grew up witnessing and working hard for what I had. I was a tennis player, and tennis really taught me a strong work ethic because to be good at a sport, you have to work at it. And
Hmm.
that sort of was also what happened in school. Like, school didn't come easy to me, I had to work at it. And it hasn't been until the last 7 to 10 years, I'd say 8 years, that I've really started to trust my instincts, trust myself. And that's really been part of like going out on my own because the only person I can look to is myself. You obviously have a network of people that you trust, that you want to talk to, that you bounce ideas off of. But no, I wasn't always like that. And so it's really nice to hear you ask me that question. And it's very refreshing for me to reflect on how far I've come.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, I forget to do that all the time. And then I don't know about you, but I'll have things pop up on like Instagram or like old like email chains, and I'll look at that and be like, oh my gosh, that was only 3 years ago. This is insane, the progress. And I think when you get stuck in the day to day, it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, everything's chaos. What am I even doing? But I do think,
Yes.
to your point, it's so important to reflect.
Yes. And also, when you see old things pop up, it brings up a memory of a feeling. Like, what were you feeling at
Hmm.
that point? It's so
Yeah,
interesting. And I think, look, the world has changed so much and it's always been changing, but everybody is just figuring it out. So I think always
that.
giving ourselves some grace to be like, nobody knows what they're doing, but the best people that are going to be successful they're entrepreneurial in spirit. They're
Hmm.
innovators because they're not resisting what's happening. They're going for it. They're figuring it out. There's so many resources for us to do that. And so yeah, it's a new era that we're living in.
It really is. I think, again, kind of to your point of all the resources that are available. For me, with everything that's involved in AI right now, I think that I've seen so many people being resistant to that. But if you're looking at it as a tool and as an application to further or make what you're doing more efficient, you're going to
Mhm.
be so many light years ahead of the people that are like really sticking in the mud right now.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think that, I worked at Netflix from 2012 to 2019. And that was the dawn of just a whole new era of consumer choice and content consumption. And it was really a shift in this paradigm of how content was being consumed. And I saw the resistance. I was part of like witnessing the backlash of that. And also, like when Netflix started moving into film, and it still happens, where there are these people or groups of people that resist what's going on. And if people channeled a little bit more of their energy into, okay, this is happening whether we like it or not, we may not love it, but how do we adapt and innovate in a way that allows us to be successful and thrive? And I see that similarly with AI, where there's a lot of resistance, but I think there's a lot of people that are not resisting now. I see more and more companies sprouting up about AI. More people are embracing it. And I think people are scared. And I think the most impulsive reaction to fear, or the most is to resist and to be
Yeah.
it's discomfort. And so I couldn't agree with you more about the AI conversation. It's so interesting. And I've learned to stop resisting change and to move with it and to learn with it.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go back to when you started your company, but before we do that, just out of curiosity, how are you using AI in what you're doing, or what are you seeing like across your industry as the applications for how people are using AI?
It's a great question. Um, I love AI in a way that helps me articulate my thoughts and formulate a pitch better.
Yeah.
Um, I've gotten a lot better at, PR is so intentional. You have to be so intentional and bespoke with everybody you reach out to and pitch, and the strategy that you're building in order before you execute. And so I use it a lot to help me write. And I also use it to help me research, specific outlets and what the best approach would be. I think you have to, the thing is, when you work with AI, you have to parallel path and you have to be a good judge. Like, you can't just give it all up to AI or give it all up to, an assistant. You also have to be closely integrated and closely involved to be able to know, is this right?
Yeah.
So I use it in that way. I've used it to build presentations to help me, like, here's all the context, help me make this look good.
Yeah.
But I haven't expanded beyond that. It's very kind of basic right now. And I would love to take the time to expand and learn more. And I will. How do you use it? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, for all kinds of random things. I think a lot of very similar to what you're talking about, like streamlining things, just like brain dumping. Here's all this. I do a ton of like pitch decks and strategy for clients, and they'll give me like really minimal, like, okay, here's what we need. And so I'll use it almost as a thinking partner to be like, how can we elaborate on this? What is maybe, the people that we're going to be having the conversation with, what are some of the questions that they could possibly have? Even like proofreading, like throwing in decks and being like, what is missing from this? How could we make it better?
Yeah.
Um, and then on the website side of things, I use it for coding. I mean, I don't do any coding by hand anymore. And it's so fantastic because I am, I don't know. I'm technically inclined, but not like
Well, I don't
crazy.
even know how to think about coding, so you're going to have to teach me that, because I've heard a
Okay,
lot of
well,
people.
you just have to ask it questions. So that's the lovely part. It's a you have to I think I've gotten really good. So one of my skills is I'm a really good Googler, okay? And that has transferred over into creating the prompts for AI. And I think that that's one of the biggest things we're seeing with AI right now is people don't know how to create effective prompts. And that's
Yes,
kind of the barrier to entry.
yes. Yeah, you have to be curious. You have to know what
Yeah.
questions to ask. I love that you said a thinking partner. That's such a great way of describing AI, especially as a solopreneur. So
Yes.
it's a great companion. And I think, you know, the way a lot of people think about things today, even back when we were building Netflix from a distributor of content to a creator of content, we were often
Hmm.
asked, is this a replacement for traditional TV? And we would always say, this is a companion to TV. It's a companion to your other choices in how you choose to spend your leisure time. And I see that in the same way with AI. So I love how you just described that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's an excellent parallel as well with Netflix because you lived through the whole, you had like Orange is the New Black and all that. And I remember like that shift. That was such a
Mm.
big breakout show for Netflix.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
think that that was like a big, almost synonymous with like the weekly shows that would come on TV. It felt like the first thing that was very similar to that that was available via streaming. Do you
Yes.
think that that was like the thing that really kicked it off at Netflix, or was there anything that I'm not remembering that was maybe a segue into that?
House of Cards really was
Yeah.
because it was this like groundbreaking, 2 season order. David Fincher, this big film director, Kevin Spacey, this big film actor, Robin Wright. So that was sort of what put Netflix on the map in that way. The real first original was Lilyhammer, which is with Stevie Van Zandt, who was in The Sopranos and is in Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. But it was sort of a soft launch of originals, and it didn't necessarily have the cross-functional marketing support, and that was before my time. But Orange, once we launched House of Cards, then it just started, we had this whole wave of other originals, and Orange is the New Black was definitely a show that it was a global sensation. It was sort of this never before seen, like these women from all shapes and sizes, colors, backgrounds. It was such a non-conventional or unconventional series for television. So I think that's sort of the first show that kind of blew up in a big, big way. And you couldn't go anywhere without hearing people talk about it.
Was I forget, this is just maybe totally me putting things in. Was Orange is the New Black Genji Cohen?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God, because Weeds is my favorite thing ever. And
Oh,
so this,
yes.
like,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, really anything she's ever done. But the
Yes.
casting and everything
Yes.
she's involved in is always so
Yes.
insane.
Yeah. She's so brilliant and unabashedly herself. And I think that's what
Yes.
makes her such a brilliant storyteller. And, Cindy Holland, who greenlit the series at Netflix, she's now over at Paramount Plus.
Okay.
She really, she shepherded so many of these shows for Netflix and, with such impeccable taste. So, yeah, that was such an amazing experience. I'd never worked on a show that was that big before. And it is one of my it was a show and work that really shaped me as a publicist. A cast that large, and when building the strategy, thinking about how do we make this feel bigger than just a women's prison show, it was so much bigger than that. So I think like even when building strategies, people don't think about what goes into executing media relations. It's not just about being reactive to what the media wants. It's about shaping what that narrative is and what you want the narrative, shaping what the narrative is and what you want people to see, what you want people to hear, what you want them to perceive. And if we had just built the show around this women's prison show, then it would have been this big. But we made
Yeah.
it bigger. It felt bigger because we went bigger. And I'll never, I don't know that I'll ever experience the magnitude of working with talent like that and on a show like that. And the beautiful thing is that the talent were growing and their profiles were growing as we were growing. It was
Yeah.
such a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And, part of the work too was not just doing publicity for the show, but it was about doing PR for Netflix as a brand. And so, what did a show like Orange is the New Black say about a brand like Netflix? So, we were working very closely at Netflix. We were very cross functional. We would be working very closely with content and the marketing team and the social team and consumer insights and the product team. And so, it was such a holistic success story, not just, oh, the publicity was great. It was a result of, it was lightning in a bottle on so many levels.
And that makes a lot of sense, I guess, from a consumer standpoint, because when I look at these other things, much more recently, like K-pop Demon Hunters, it feels like they still have that holistic approach. It feels very broad and that there are all these different teams working. I mean, we're at McDonald's, but then they're at all the award shows. Like you cannot get away from it, but not in a bad way. It doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
So, good on them.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, it's a great point. It speaks to how much Netflix has expanded. I mean, they are wholeheartedly an entertainment brand. And I think they're also working to be a consumer products brand. I mean, a entertainment brand, you're creating entertainment in real life experiences, your products. Like, how do you bring people closer to the IP and the characters and the story building worlds that people love? But as
Yeah.
times change, they're changing with it. And that's one of the things I learned a lot about Netflix is just because your business model is this doesn't mean that you're going to stay this forever. And so it was very much like expansive from, yes, like, how do you think about moving into, this space? Like sometimes that felt very jarring because I think so many of us come from like, this is who we are and this is what we do. And we're going to stay in this box.
Yeah.
And it was like a school of like, okay, just because this is what we're doing, how do you think about this? And sometimes when we talk about resistance, sometimes you think to yourself, but this is what we do. This is who we are. Why would we do that? And it makes your job change too, right?
Yeah.
But a big focus at Netflix was what's best for the business and how do you think about the business? And so, you kind of had to learn to adapt and shift where things were going.
Very cool. And I guess, I mean, that makes sense because remember, we used to go get the CDs from the grocery store. Like, that's to watch the trajectory of now, I would say, arguably, Netflix is like almost like a mini Disney. It's like a burgeoning, when you talk about the IP and how people are like interacting in person, it feels very similar to that.
Yeah. And it hasn't been until the last, this journey leaving Netflix and starting Elevate that I've been able
Hmm.
to really properly reflect on my experience there. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the time that I worked there and the work that I did and the experiences that I had and the people that I met. I mean, the people that helped shape Netflix into what Netflix is today are such extraordinary, brilliant human beings. And so there's so many gifts we get along the way throughout our career journey, throughout our personal journey. But I take so many memories and I use that to shape who I am today. I use it to, okay, this was really helpful during this experience or my Paramount experience or my Sony experience or my prior PR firm experience. And every job, every piece of experience that you have in your life shapes the next generation for you, the next chapter for you. So I have so much gratitude when I think about that time in my life. It was a lot of work. It was a lot
Right.
of work, but it's a different, and then you venture out and you do your own thing. And that's still a lot of work, but it's such a different feeling. So I'm in a happy place.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay, well, let's talk about that because I want to dive into obviously you had, a bunch of fantastic experiences at Netflix. At what point were you like, I'm ready to go out and do this on my own? What kind of spurred
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah. So I had always thought and talked to people at Netflix, like on my teams or other teams or people I'd interview, that when I left Netflix, I would probably go out on my own because the time that I experienced at Netflix, this like golden era, the culture was so unique and unusual. I mean, I went from a very corporate culture to like a very free culture where your decisions were about your decisions. You would farm for dissent, but you were empowered with a budget, with this, so it was very much context, not control, freedom and responsibility. And I felt that in my next chapter, how could I go back? It would feel like taking a step back if I went into the system again.
Yeah.
So, when I left, I thought, okay, well, let me think about this. What do I really want to do? Do I want to go back into the system or do I want to do my own thing? And I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I've been talking about this all along. And what you think about, you bring about. What you talk about, you bring about. And so my energy moved towards, I was a part of something at Netflix where we were building a brand and all this stuff. And I decided I'm going to channel all that knowledge and that experience I had into doing something for myself. So my boss, who has been such an instrumental part of my career, she brought me over to Netflix and she had brought me over to Sony. And
Okay.
She had left Netflix before I did. And she went over to Blumhouse and she became their chief marketing officer. Yeah.
Stop.
And so she was like, do you want to get to work? Because if you want to dip your toe in this and kind of see how you feel, I have so much I could put you to work for and do. And so I was like, yeah. So she was really my first client. And she, once again was instrumental in helping me kind of take this next step and chapter into the entrepreneurial life. And so Blumhouse was a client. And then I had a friend who had started a Lyme disease organization and they needed somebody. So I started working with them. And then I was like, yeah, I like this. This is cool. And even though I had been on the receiving end of receiving pitches from PR agencies when they wanted, to get to work with us on TV shows and films, I had never been the one to put proposals together and pitch business. And so that was a new experience for me. And I fell on my butt a couple times. And that's what I mean by learning through experience. You start and you don't really do the right thing all the time. And then you start, let me get the hang of that. This was really helpful to know why I didn't get this business. And so, now I'm nearing 7 years in business on my own. And it's been quite the journey in learning and adapting and growing.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, before we unpack any of this, to have your first client be Blumhouse is absolutely insane. I don't know about you, but I take things, whether or not it is what it is, I'll be like, oh, well, that's the universe put that out there for me. I'm definitely headed in the right direction. That had to have felt like, okay, I made the right decision here.
Yeah, it absolutely did. It was all Karen because she and I go way back. So her trust in me and knowing that I was what she needed at the time, right? And yeah, I didn't even think about it until somebody actually mentioned that to me when I was starting to figure out how to build out my business. And yeah, it was such a great gift to have Blumhouse as my first client, working with them. And Karen is still such an important mentor to me and a friend.
Yeah, kind of dual purpose. You get to not only have a really cool client, but to get to work closely with somebody that you love and collaborating with so much. That's the best.
It
It
is.
really is.
It is. And I feel that way with all my clients too. I'm very fortunate. And I love what you said about the universe because that is my religion. I'm a very spiritual person. And I do think about, I have been so fortunate that the clients I work with, they really see me and I see them. And there's such a mutual respect. And I think part of that is just, again, growing out the years of growth, and making good choices. And it's really
Yeah.
nice when, on the client side, when they feel like this person is committed to me and dedicated to me, right? And
Yes.
there's a lot of people that get bamboozled, or the publicists or agencies they hire, they're just like, a notch in their belt. With me, I'm one person and everything is about my reputation. So I greatly care about the work I do, and they see me for that and they appreciate that. And on my end, it's so refreshing to work with people that appreciate what you do, that trust your instincts and like look to you for guidance and counsel. And so really that's what I've become, and that's what my business is I'm a thought partner. I'm an extension of your brand. I'm an extension of your company. I am, a passionate builder, storyteller, and then I'm finding those ways to connect those clients, those human beings, those human businesses to what the world is wanting and craving. How do we connect to what's going on in the world? So I feel very fortunate, and they also feel very fortunate. So it's a mutually exclusive relationship.
That literally sounds like the dream. I will say. Listen, I'm trying to dial in my boundaries because
Mm.
I'm the same way. I literally cannot work for somebody like it's not my business. You're going to get 100%. And I have found out over the years that it doesn't matter what you're paying me. So then I get, these clients that are not paying enough for that effort, or that are not appreciating it enough. And so I'm really this year working on understanding what is serving me and what isn't, because I do work in that fashion and I know that it's not like a we can only dial it up halfway type situation. So I love that you have been able to cultivate that as like these are the only
Mhm.
clients I'm working with.
I love that you're seeing that, because it comes at different stages in your career and in your business. I think, look, to be candid, everybody wants some sort of discount so that, you know, you'll build them up at the expense of yourself. And I think you get to a place in your life where you know your value and you know your worth, and you know what you're not going to, you're not going to take any shortcuts, or you're not going to take any discounts to get there, to because I agree. I mean, and you have to kind of feel it. It's all about this like intuition and instincts that you have. Does this work for me now during this point in my business or not? And I'm definitely going through that too, where I I'm in a place where I know my value, I know my worth, I know what I bring to the table. And if you want to have access to it, like you have to pay like everybody else does. And so yeah, but it's different stages that you kind of work through that. And sometimes it's opportunistic, where it's
Yeah.
a new experience for you. So maybe you kind of dip your toes in the water a little bit and learn the system or learn the press, or it's all like what your judgment is and what feels right to you. But I totally get it too. You got to scope it properly. You got to make sure you're giving the right amount of time and energy against it, and not feeling resentful about the amount of time you're spending.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think those are all really important points. Um, Before I forget, when we were just talking about you learning how to pitch people and kind of, the trial and error of that, do you have any hot tips for us as far as pitching people that you see
Mm,
people like make mistakes on, or things that you just learned along the way that were really helpful?
yes, I think that there is no replacement for how you make people feel. I
Yes.
think that how you show up for people and how you set yourself up is so important. And so, in my experience, the human relationships are the most important. The people I work with on the media side, like I'm genuinely curious about them as people. I don't like
Yes.
being transactional. And, you know, working with these people, sometimes they're not interested in getting to know you, and that's totally fine. And other times they appreciate it more than you would ever know. And so for me, I always try to get to know somebody and like who they are. It's just like working with actors or executives, whoever you are. We all put our pants on the same way. We all, are sad when we have deaths in the family. We all are human beings. And so my advice is just show up as a human being versus like a robot in trying to get something out of somebody. And so that is my advice. The other piece of advice is to, if you want people to write you back and take you seriously, you need to take them seriously. You can't just check a box and be like, I need to get this pitch out. You're not going to get a response. I mean, you won't get a response if you're just trying to get something done and cross it off your list. But being thoughtful about things, being articulate about things, doing your research about what kinds of stories does this person write takes a lot of time. And that is sort of my superpower, is taking that time and not getting too far ahead of myself now. I used to get so far ahead of myself where I would be like, okay, I have to get this one thing done. So I would just get so worked up about all the things I had to do in order to get the thing done. And there were a million of those things. Now I'm in it when I'm in it. I'm in the journey of doing it. And I love the journey of doing it, which yields the best results.
I love all of that. I think that that's something that I've come across so many times. I've, had the opportunity to work with so many different businesses, and they all have like their kind of inside teams. And I see this specifically in the sales teams a lot. The people
Mm.
that are very transactional, and you're going to pitch something, you're going to sell something, and they're just like scripted. And it's like, talk to people like they're people. That's like, how hard is that,
Yes. Yeah, that's not going to yield any results. I mean, and the thing that's tough today is I think that there's less people that are truly coaching and mentoring the next generation of talent. I think everybody is trying to keep their jobs, and
Yeah.
everybody is out for themselves. That's not anything different in humanity. Everyone's always been like, what's best for me? But in order to grow your business, you have to support your talent, right? Your internal talent.
Hmm.
And not enough people are doing that. But as we go back to like these companions, like partners, AI, there are tools now that can help coach us. And it's also just about seeking the right people out, right? Like the way you found me. Like when you start and form these relationships, you're able to, you know, can you tell me about how you do this? Like people like that really don't see our businesses as threats to each other, but like there's enough to go around. Of course, I will help you with X, Y, and Z. This is what worked for me. And then one day when I'm like, how do you do this? You're going to show up for me and be like, let me tell you how that works. So,
Yeah.
um, if people were less, I go back to my same point as earlier, if people were less fearful about things and more supportive, we'd be in such a better place. And that's where I try to live. That's the vein in which I try to live my life, is just feeling good, making intentional choices about the people I spend my time with, the people I give my time to, people I help support. And that starts with myself.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I feel like a lot of this stems from security of like knowing yourself, because I think that when we talk about like the fear-based stuff, it's, if you are genuinely really good at what you do, you know that you can give somebody the exact details of everything that you do, and they're still not going to do it the same way, because everything isn't based off that. It's like when your grandma used to make cookies, and it's like the secret ingredient is love. Like it never tastes the same if you make those cookies. So I think that that's such an important part of it. But also, like you said, just like the idea of networking not for a specific, it's similar to like the sales scripting. It's like just have people in your network, have people that you talk to, keep really smart people around you. Like the whole idea of being the dumbest person in the room, like that's where I try and always stay, because I love being around people that love what they're doing and are really good at what they do, because they're always so interesting to talk to no matter what it is that they do. And there's inevitably crossover and things that you can pluck out of, how they're doing things. So
Yeah.
just a lot of great points in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important to just be an active listener too. I think so many people
Yes.
talk to talk. This is a lesson I've learned in my life, and it's important to listen. It's important to want to learn. None of us know everything. There's so much to learn in the world, and there's a lot of resources out there if you're willing to reach out and be vulnerable and ask for help. And when you find the right people, those people will be there for you.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. I would love to hear, what do you think has been your most favorite project that you've ever worked on? It can be
Hmm.
from your entire career or from the time that you've been working for yourself. I'll let you choose.
Hmm. Say the project that I think impacted me the most was working on Orange is the New Black, because it was so big. And
Yeah.
I'd never worked on such a big show before, meaning hitting in all the right places. I mean, it was just bonkers.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just in the US, it was globally. Um, and so that was like the most like profound, but there's so many. I mean, I had a client that was an aviation company, and I had never worked in aviation, and under starting to study a new industry and make new relationships. I would say that's been a favorite memory of mine, because it showed me that it doesn't have to just be what I know, but I can venture into other, business verticals.
Yeah.
So say those two.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. It feels like you enjoy, kind of like how you were just talking about, you love the journey. It's like those two maybe really helped you level up because it was so much new and you really had to learn along with those clients.
That you just said that. You're right. Newness. Now, I will say that the feeling I had when I was working on Orange, like while I knew TV, it was very
Hmm.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then the feeling I had when I was starting out in my own business and taking on a client outside my comfort zone, it wasn't like I felt comfortable. I have learned to lean into the discomfort of what I don't know since starting
Yes.
Elevate, and I'm less intimidated by it. And that has been really empowering for me. I used to convince myself that if I didn't know something, I wasn't going to be good at it. And now I'm in a stage in my life where if I don't know something, I don't say that. I know I'm going to be good at it, because I've proven countless times
Yeah.
now that I can do this and I can do it really, really well. But there's always that like imposter syndrome that we sometimes, it's like knocking at the door, and whether you open it up or not, that's your choice.
Hmm.
And I love it. I've transitioned from being fearful to fearless. And that doesn't mean you go in with your eyes wide closed. I mean, I understand, like, okay, this could happen, but I give more of my energy to making something work than why something's not going to work. If you put your energy
Yes.
into thinking about why something's not going to work, it's not going to work, period. End of
100%.
story. So, energy has so much to do with everything and my life. And that's been one of the biggest lessons I've learned. So, yeah.
I love that. That's like, I always say all you can do is be undeniable, because we can feel however we want to feel about things, but look at the track record. Have I ever let myself down? Have I ever, not, the worst thing is Like you're not going to be able to complete something, you go and talk to the person. Like that's, and if that's the scariest thing that can happen, that's a pretty good day in my book.
Right. It's like we just so much of the world and humankind is convinced that we can't do something. We have so many limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves. If we only reversed the limiting beliefs into beliefs of like positive beliefs, why we can do something, we would be amazing. I mean, that's why I am in the
Yeah.
space I am in my business and in my career and in my personal life, because I don't let those limiting beliefs enter anymore. And if I do, it's very rare. I mean, I'm a human being, of
Right.
course, but I don't let
Yeah.
them dominate. And I think that comes with more life experience. And so that's what I love is like, okay, the experiences are what have made me.
I love that. Sorry, this is a total random thought.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the old Mean Girls when they're talking about Rachel Wieners because she's got big, beautiful curly hair like you? And they're like, her hair is so big because it's full of secrets. I feel like your hair is so big because it's full of wisdom. Like you've got all this. So you can run with that for one of
Good.
these.
Love that. I absolutely love that. That's so funny. That's got to be like a quote.
I was gonna say, I feel like we need like an Instagram post of you in like one of the old like Mean Girls outfits. So do with that what you will. Of
Thank you for the inspo.
course. Okay, so I'm super excited. We're at the point in the interview where I get to ask you the question that I ask everybody that comes on this podcast. What
Mm-hmm.
is the wildest story that you can tell me on this podcast?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I shared earlier, which is it's not like a wild red carpet story or, you know, any sort of grandiose moment. But I think my wildest story is that I quit my job 2 months after 9/11 and went all in on a career that I had no roadmap for. I mean, there was no safety net, there was no guarantees, there was just this belief in betting on myself and when no one else would. I mean, my parents were kind of like, "What? What are you doing? You're going to what?" And it's all fear-based, right? Cuz like the
Yeah,
economy wasn't great, but that decision really shaped everything. And I think it's easy to talk about big wins, but the wildest thing I think I've ever done was just choose uncertainty on purpose.
I think that's an excellent
That's a
answer.
very unconventional answer, but
I get all kinds of stuff. Listen, sometimes they involve Kanye, sometimes they involve, people. The last one was we went to WWE in Paris. So it's across the board, all kinds of stuff. So I think that's a fantastic answer.
okay, love it.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, I have so enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you for taking time. I would
Thank
love to give
you.
you, yeah, an opportunity if people want to find you on socials, which I highly suggest that they do. Where can we find you?
You can find me on at elevate_comms. That's my Instagram, and Lindsay Colker on LinkedIn.
You're so
Yeah.
professional. I
And
think this
then
is the
my
first LinkedIn shout out I've gotten. I love this.
and then elevateprco.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you, Chloe. Also, I love your last name. I know it's Emmy, but
Oh,
my
thank
niece's
you.
name is Emma. So you are like a spirit sister to me.
I was
Chloe
gonna
and
say,
Emma.
we were just talking about your kitty cat that was named Chloe, so
Mhm.
I'll take it on both accounts.
Yes. Thanks for doing
uh,
this. This has been really fun.
yeah. All right. I'll see you guys next week.